Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be water, my friend.
So Eric, welcome to the Flowgrade Show.
Great to be here. Absolutely amazing. Happy we made it work.
Yes, thanks to you and your flexibility, because just maybe to share a little bit, I had a personal event where I had to cancel our initial recording, and then I received this amazing care package with, quite an amount of your products, actually. And we've been thinking about, ever since I've met your partner, colleague in the company, Otso, in Finland at Biohacker Summit, we were thinking about including your products in our product line at Flowgrade, and we are just about to order some products from you, at least the ones that are still in stock at the time being. And that's what I want to focus on, because as far as I know the market, you are really one of the leading companies and people right now dealing with medicinal mushrooms, a very fascinating area in the field of biohacking. And so thank you very much for talking to me about that.
Yeah, great to be doing it.
So my first question for you would be, to get people started with the whole thing, is your personal story. Like, what is the passion? How did that passion evolve for medicinal mushrooms? And maybe you can even start with explaining what medicinal mushrooms actually means. I think that's for maybe people who hear about that for the first time helpful.
Sure. Well, I was born on a cold day in the medicinal mushrooms for me, I mean, some people call them functional mushrooms. And it just depends. I think when we start to look at, all food is medicinal, I would say. All food is functional in that sense. But when we're taking that food and we're processing it, and we're really optimizing that processing space to make what we call compounds of interest bioavailable for us humans to take, then I would call that medicinal mushrooms. So if we're basically developing certain strains of mushrooms, and we're looking at, where are the studies at? What are those compounds that seem interesting? In our company, we call them compounds of interest because we're very creative. And then we think, okay, how do we extract and make most of that bioavailable for us humans? And then how do we concentrate that? How do we dose it? So we take mushrooms, which are, potentially medicinal, and then we make those medicinal products from that, basically. But I think, to me, I've had many interests in life, and I've done a lot of things, and I've settled on mushrooms, actually. I think I'm done now. I don't know. I'm 33. I'm ready to build this company and just keep going. And I'm incredibly inspired because I don't think that there's a wall that we're going to hit. I don't see where this ends. So our main company is called KÄÄPÄ Biotech. And KÄÄPÄ in Finnish language means polypore, which from an evolutionary standpoint was the original. Polypore is like many pores. So as compared to gilled mushrooms, like shiitake, when you look at the bottom and it has these gills, polypore, like the bottom of reishi, will just have all these dots. Mm-hmm. But it was basically the first form of mushroom. So it's kind of KÄÄPÄ, it's kind of the essence of fungi. It's the original version. So for us, it's we're deeply connected to the root of fungi. And for us, our inspiration comes from, how did we use these mushrooms for 2.5 million years as our species, or the species that we kind of have come from? And what can we learn about also how those fungi are working in the ecosystem? And so I guess all of my life, I've been very connected to nature. I've been very connected to, we were talking a little bit before about my time at Earth Skills community even.
Yeah, and maybe we mentioned that because people might be thrown off by your perfect English. I didn't know that before the episode, that you actually grew up in Indiana in the US.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time in Oregon, where I spent some time as well, maybe even overlapping at some point.
I think so. It sounds to me that we were maybe even less than 100 kilometers from each other.
Could be.
But yeah,
I was
I grew up
there.
in the States.
I was there from 2004 till 2006 in Oregon, at least.
Okay. That was be a little bit before I got there, actually.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was there right after high school. So you're a bit younger than me. I'm 35, so must have been. But anyways, yeah, back to your story. So you grew up in Indiana, but then you moved to Oregon.
Yeah, I grew
Earth
up in
community.
Indiana. Studied business at Indiana University.
Oh, really? They have a good basketball team.
They have a very good basketball team. I wished it was a better football team.
The Hoosiers. That's actually the original basketball story. Well, the movie obviously based in Indiana.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Larry Bird fan, so.
Nice. Yeah, I'm like 160 centimeters, so for me, basketball is always out of the picture. But it was a very inspiring place to be. I mean, huge amounts of basketball. And there's a really good business school there. So I went to business school. And I think, when you're that young and you're told you're intelligent and you're getting good scores and you're getting good marks, I wasn't thinking for myself so much. I was doing kind of what I was told. And that was okay, and I got a really nice job doing corporate consulting in Chicago. So I was consulting these very, very large corporate consulting company. I was consulting these very large corporations around the world, how they could make more money, better management practices, maybe some tech innovations that they could do. And that was fun. But maybe it wasn't enough for me in a way. I felt there was maybe something else going on here. And I didn't see a lot of happiness in that organization. And I felt the need to kind of maybe restart things, learn who I am. What do I want, actually? I felt it was a bit different. And Oregon, the joke in the US is that Oregon is where like Gen Xers or this kind of our generation goes to retire. It's where the 25-year-old goes to retire, basically. Because it is maybe not where you were at, in Klamath Falls, but in the north. I mean, it's people are taking vows of intentional poverty to limit their requirements for work or responsibility and really define themselves. And that was a big part of my 20s. And just
maybe
trying
that comes from that documentary Wild Wild Country. The
Sure.
Horseshoe, who started the community. Maybe there's still some spirits from that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big land. I mean, I think it's the second largest piece of continuous forest also that's not broken up by roads in the whole U.S.
Wow.
It's in Oregon, the Jefferson Wilderness area. And I mean, there's huge mountains. The place is super inspiring, huge waterfalls, big mountains. And I was hiking and climbing, all that stuff, doing rock climbing. Smith Rock in the desert is the first place they did sport climbing with the carabiners instead of putting gear into the wall and taking it out when you're done. Just doing all that stuff all the time and figuring out, what is this life? What do I want to be doing? Who am I? And it was great. I started to find connection with certain things. And for me, nature was always there. Finding a connection with nature seemed just like this really important thing missing in my life. Growing up in Indiana, where as far as you can see are cornfields, the landscape is 100% manipulated. It is nothing. There's no natural patterns or sequences there at all. It is very much man manipulated. To go to Oregon, which is just the biggest continuous forest that you could just walk through with a tent and a backpack as long as you want, no trails, and see those really wild patterns. And for me to connect with my ancestors in that way too. I took my shoes off and how can we be connecting with this earth? And for me, that was truly profound. And I really got into things like permaculture. How can we be designing ecosystems by learning from ecosystems? I got into natural building. How can we be, building different structures with natural materials? And I created a community called The Push, which was a place for people with natural building who are doing natural building to connect with people who wanted to learn those skills and vice versa, kind of a share exchange. Built that community to over 40,000 people.
Oh, wow.
All around the world, basically finding each other. It's kind of started.
It was an online community?
It was online. It's still going on. I've given it now to a new group that are handling it, but I don't have time for it anymore. But it was, for me, it's such a passionate place to, if you think about, do you know permaculture? Have you heard of the concept or?
Please explain.
Yeah, but it's basically design. It's like a design science where what you're looking at is You're looking at how the ecosystem works, why natural systems build patterns and what those patterns are, and what can we learn from those patterns to design our own food systems or companies or economic systems or kind of anything. And there's always these permaculture design courses, and a good friend of mine who is quite a famous PDC teacher in the States, he always asks at the start of the lecture, he says, what's wrong with the world? Let's get it out there. People talking about climate change and all the crazy stuff. And he basically writes on a big whiteboard all the stuff that's wrong. And then he says, okay, what things on here are caused by something else? And then you start crossing stuff off, trying to find the core of what these problems come from. You go through another round. Okay, what's left here? What's still, okay, this is actually caused by this. And they talk about it. And he said, every time he's done this now for 25 years, the answer that they get to is the word connection. Connection to ourselves, connection to each other, connection to spirituality, connection to nature, connection. Like we just lost connection somehow over the years of humanity. And I think it's a big theme in my life and how to regain that connection. And for me, then there was a lot of social development with people, but also like if I'm going to be building a company that's going to be solving problems, as that's just my nature, I just always want to solve those problems. Where do I want to look for those answers, right? Do I want to make a laboratory, hire a bunch of really nice engineers, develop the best, most human-centric brain solutions for these things? Or do I want to look to nature and how those patterns are kind of replicating themselves, what fungi has been serving in nature, either for human health or for ecosystem health over millions of years, and take that knowledge and build that base on that. So we started, that's what really inspires me to make this. Now we're a biotech company. So we are involved with medicinal mushrooms, which is why we're here. But we're also doing a lot of biotech stuff in the space with helping, trees sequester more carbon, grow a bit faster, working on how to decompose plastics, sequester heavy metals out of wastewater systems. I mean, what can we be using fungi to help solve the problems that we have today?
It seems like a large operation. Like how many people are involved right now with your company?
Right now we have 19 employees in the company.
Okay. That seems quite a big load for such a fairly, small team, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you add on our network of salespeople, then it, of course, is a bit over 30 commissioned salespeople. But I think we're really, directly trying to challenge exactly what those things are that most important are. But it's a full load for us for sure. And I mean, our company is only 2 years old, so we are growing really quickly and we are trying to take on as much as we can.
And as far as I understand, you have a lot of land outside of your probably window where you actually grow your products as well, right?
Yeah. So our company, we took a really interesting approach. There's a lot of brands of medicinal mushroom products in the market right now, and also a lot of companies supplying those brands the product. And we took a completely, horizontal approach. We said, from the start of this, let's actually design a system that we're growing medicinal grade mushrooms, not maybe culinary mushrooms that you could be using like shiitake to eat, but we could process them in a medicinal way. No, how do we actually, just from the start, go, what are the factors that increase what we call compounds of interest in those mushrooms? How do we increase those with our growing technology? And then, okay, when we're extracting those compounds, how can we make that process the best as well? But it's been a very exciting adventure. And we have 2 mycologists in the company who are really leading a lot of that development. So it's quite nice.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm really fascinated. First of all, I use the products all the time. Before we get into how much you should use and what they're made of exactly. Now, how many different mushrooms do you grow at the time being?
So we grow many right now. For medicinal purposes and what we can sell in the EU, that's a different question. But we're the world's largest cultivator of chaga mushroom. So we have developed, and this is actually what brought us a lot of notoriety as a company very early on, was the ability to, chaga, Inotus obliquus, one of the best, most highly potent medicinal mushrooms. And for the biohacking space, I mean, I don't know how you could be trying to live over 100 years old without taking a regimen of chaga. I mean, I think that the antioxidant compounds in chaga are a different level than
I mean, I've read that it's the most dense, food in the world in terms of antioxidant density.
Gram for gram, it's the highest. And it's like highest by a factor of 20 or 30, depending on where that chaga comes from, than the next most thing. It is just, it's like a totally different ball game, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So now I'm really interested. That's actually from a personal longevity right now, but what would be a regimen that you would maybe comfortably recommend to me?
I take 2 milliliters of that a day. I take 1 in the morning and I take 1 at night.
How many milliliters is one full?
1 full pipette is 1 milliliter.
So this is about a half?
It's about, if you squeeze the whole thing, that's about 1 then.
Yeah. That's about 1.
Yeah, maybe that looks about right.
You take two a day?
I take 2 a day.
All right. Yeah, that's what I usually now take ever since you sent me that. the new package.
It's bitter, it's potent, it doesn't taste good, but it's good. It's good medicine.
So in your shop, I think I've seen 6 or 7, one photo, even I think it's 7 medicine and mushroom products that you sell with your Soma.
With chaga, it's what we have done. I mean, how you grow these mushrooms is incredibly crucial to what medicinal compounds are going to have at the end of it, because mushrooms bioaccumulate. They'll take everything in, and what the nutrient base that they're growing on gives them the building blocks basically to make those compounds that we're interested in. So that's the first thing you have to think about when you're growing mushrooms, is the proper substrate with those that can give those compounds the most nutrition is that there. So in the market right now, chaga is mainly wild foraged from Finland, Sweden, Russia is the 3 biggest areas. And then you also have what they call chaga, it's grown on grain in laboratories. And that's quite a lot done actually in Germany. There's a few companies that do it there. And the chaga so how chaga has a lot of antioxidants is actually from an acid that it gets from the birch tree, butylenic acid. And that acid and that nutritional compound behind it, those are not prevalent in grain bags that you're growing just the mycelium on.
What's the acid called? I want to write it down.
It's butylenic acid.
Yeah. Butylenic acid.
And basically, growing it outdoors is really important because it grows on a live birch tree naturally in its habitat. So what we've been able to do, but obviously cultivating it on this grain indoor in a laboratory maybe can be more sustainable in a way, because we're kind of reaching almost the end of what is available in the wild foraged, just the forest, it's starting to become a bit rare to find it. And so we want to take the good part of that, sustainability and that aspect of growing it, but still have that ability to have those compounds and those birch trees and everything outdoors. So what we have done is developed a way to actually inoculate living birch trees here in Finland with our, high potent medicinal strain of chaga. We could put that in the tree and then it can actually start to grow back out. It takes 8 years. It's a long time. But we're starting, we got it in the forest. So we started almost for 4 years. We've been doing it actually.
Wow. Okay. So halfway done with the first batch.
So we're pretty excited about it, but it's taking a long time. But basically, this is a pretty big innovation for the medicinal mushroom industry, because like everything else that's in the space, if you look at the corn you buy in the grocery store or the bread you buy or the apples you buy or whatever, we as humans take some characteristics of cultivars of species that we grow commercially. Like we want apples to be sweet or sour, depending on what we use them for, right? But we either want them to be sour or be sweet. We want them to have some shape and some size and whatever. We can do the same with, reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps. All the strain of mushrooms you use can also impact the amount of compounds that are even just available. So we've done that same work with chaga, taking it away from this place of, you're breaking chaga from the forest, but you don't know what that exact chaga is going to have. It's very variable, to being able to standardize that a little bit more. And for that work we did there, I was nominated and accepted to the executive committee for the International Medicinal Mushroom Society.
Oh, wow.
Which is a really great place to be now. And
congrats on that.
Thank you. It's a real honor. I mean, the International Medicinal Mushroom Society puts on every 2 years a Congress, and the next one will be in Europe. It was in Shanghai last year. This year will be in Europe, and I strongly recommend you to go, and any listeners who are really into medicinal mushrooms to also go.
Do they already have a place and date?
Yeah, I can send those details to you. Yep.
Yeah, sounds great. We'll link to that.
And it'll be not this year, but next year in the fall. But it's basically every paper that comes out with any new use of compounds or any methodology of extraction. All the researchers around the world who are writing those papers and doing that research present them at that Congress. So it's a real opportunity. I mean, super nerdy. You're just sitting in, plenary session after plenary session, hearing a researcher very dryly present their research paper that they made. But if you can understand it, or if you can really focus yourself just for a little bit and get, even 2 papers each day, you can really take a lot out of those congresses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So because you mentioned these compounds of interest so much,
yes.
Now I of course want to know, especially with Chaga, because it's oftentimes reduced when I ask people about it to the polysaccharides. Yep. And this is why they work so well. But can you go a little bit into the different compounds that make up the chaga mushroom now? Let's maybe stay with that one and why they are helpful.
I think these polysaccharides are more importantly beta-glucans, which is unique to mushrooms. It's a subset.
Is it uniquely to mushrooms?
Yeah.
Beta-glucan. Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
well, it's the fungi kingdom. I think there's also some in yeast, but it's the building blocks of fungi. So when you think about, and this is what it's really, well, we'll get into that in a second. But extraction is really important because the ketene, which is kind of like the building blocks of these mushrooms, is much more difficult to break down than cellulose in plants. Mm-hmm. But these beta-glucans are really important. I mean, they are essentially the adaptogenic aspects a lot of times that we talk about when we talk about adaptogens and mushrooms being adaptogens. We're talking about the beta-glucan compounds in these fungi. And they're really helping our immune system because these beta-glucans can be a bit more well put together. They can go past our digestive system and they can really start to interact with those cells, and they can really kind of modulate our immune system, making it stronger, making it weaker, depending on the state of our body, or also kind of training it, making it even stronger if things are going okay. So I think that they're quite, and scientific paper after scientific paper with human trials, in vitro, in vivo, can show that these beta-glucans are massively really helping our immune system, especially in these times right now.
Very interesting.
But I think the story doesn't stop there. I mean, I think if you look at the popular research or a lot of what companies right now are branding medicinal mushrooms about, it's all about beta-glucans, polysaccharide, beta-glucans. And there's so much more to these mushrooms. There's so many more compounds, that are really interesting. And especially with chaga, if you go back to chaga, because chaga is maybe 10 to 20% beta-glucan, actually. It's quite a low, more around 10%, to be honest. And that's because chaga,
is it the mushroom itself or you extract? Or is it the same?
Chaga, growing off the birch tree.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's not a fruiting body of the mushroom, right? It's actually a conch that is a reaction. The tree's going, oh my God, there's this, this oblicus mycelium in me. And it starts to fight against it. So
is the fruiting body inside of the tree or outside?
It happens kind of when the tree dies only. And it appears for 2 days. 10 people in the whole world have seen it in real life. I'm making that up, but it's probably about 10 to 20, to be honest. It's really, there's photos on the internet and you look, and if I've taken them all down and put them in a folder, I can find 4, 5. And it's really, really rare to find. And it comes really quickly and disappears also really quickly. It's a reproductive mechanism. But this is not the reproductive side. This is actually just kind of this canker. It's like this parasitic kind of cancerous growth in a way. Like the tree is going, oh no, the mycelium is here. Okay, tree cell. And then the innotus obliquus mycelium goes, okay, one more mushroom cell, tree cell, mushroom cell, and then it just grows and gets bigger. So by most accounts, actually, that chaga is 90% wood.
It looks like wood. I've seen it in.
But it's not exactly wood, and it's not exactly fungi. It's like chaga. It's the only thing. It's a thing. So it has unique compounds that maybe have come from the tree, but have been made bioavailable by the chaga, like this butyric acid that we talked about. So there's a lot of it's kind of the concentration space for a lot of things that are really interesting.
I always think about it like a chemical lab, which is sitting on the tree and like sucks itself full of all those powerful compounds.
100% what it does, actually. I mean, when we think about why humans take medicinal mushrooms, I think that's really such an important question to ask. Like, why are we even talking? Like, why are we talking about this, right? I mean, did humans in a laboratory just find out that chaga had these crazy things like 10 years ago, and then it was this big boom? No, not at all. I mean, like these mushrooms have been found with like Otzel. There's a better German pronunciation of his name, but the Iceman, the guy they found there in Tyrol, southern Austria, northern Italy.
Ötzi,
yeah. I mean, he had a couple different mushrooms with him, and they're using these as health. So I think when we start to look back at like why these make sense, it's because mushrooms are more closely related to humans than plants. I mean, we are. And when you look at where that division happened, it happened on our immune system in a way. It was one of the big places. So we have a very strong cell walls. We have a very good resistance to viruses that we build up internally so they don't hijack our mitochondria and create copies of themselves and take over our body. But what these mushrooms do, I mean, they make these compounds, they're chemical-based immune system. But those chemicals we have receptors for. So they are really like you said, they are actually like these pharmaceutical little companies, natural pharmaceutical companies bubbling away and making chemicals for our bodies, And if we understand what those compounds of interest are, when to use them and why, it's an incredible, ally for us in this life that we live,
Fascinating stuff. Now, you mentioned before that they have adaptogenic elements to them. And that's actually a question I get asked a lot. That's why I'd like to hear from you. Where exactly now does the classification of adaptogen and medicinal mushrooms differ, and like where do they overlap? Are all your medicinal mushrooms, for example, are they also adaptogenic?
Yeah.
Or is there a line to draw somewhere?
I think it depends on your definition of adaptogenic in a way.
Okay.
And I would say we could define it right now just so we're like both clear that we're talking about the same thing. But I mean, I think that there's principles and properties of mushrooms that are adaptogenic, I would say, meaning that it's like modulating. It's like helping us
adapt,
react.
I kind of feel like it as an adaptogen. Whatever my body needs right now, it will work in that way in some way. Like now, very simplified, obviously, but.
And I'd say for the immune system, that's very much the case with the beta-glucans and how they work in our bodies. But I mean, mushrooms have much more compounds too. So I'd say there's an element of them that's adaptogenic, like it's modulating our immune system. But I would say that there are compounds like for instance in chaga, there's a compound that's helping make vitamin D more bioavailable to our body. So that's a cool thing, but it's not necessarily in a way maybe adaptogenic. If you're in Finland and you're in the winter and there's very little sun, you could be taking chaga to maximize what sun you do get.
So you say it's fair to say that medicine, like if someone said chaga is an adaptogen, you wouldn't interfere. I wouldn't
interfere. No, I wouldn't interfere. I would say it's not the complete picture, but it's an adaptogen, and that's what I would want to say.
It's
because I think also antioxidants in a way you could also say then by your definition that they're adaptogenic. Because I would think if we think about how we age, which I don't know, us biohackers, maybe we think about this actually kind of a lot, how we age and what that means. And for me, I've never been super excited about living till I'm like 150 or 200, but like if I can just be like 70 and having a great time, I'm happy, right? Or like 80, 90, whatever. I don't want to be in a wheelchair at 150. I want to be like enjoying life, biking around, like
that's kind of what my vision is too. At 80, still on the slopes, skiing or doing fun stuff, playing golf, playing tennis, whatever.
Yeah,
so,
that's
you mentioned.
I think we want to have that.
Also, something before I want to talk about is extraction, but before that, we've talked a little bit about that before the episode. Why is it that you chose Finland, and why in general is it actually that it seems to me that the Nordic countries have nature that is more accustomed to growing like highly effective products such as your Chaga, for example? Do you have a reason for that?
Yeah. I think we could go back to kind of my original part of my life. I think I found my grandfather actually came from Finland, which is funny. I do have a pretty good amount of Finnish blood. My last name is Finnish. Puro means like small stream. So,
do you speak actually fluent Finnish?
No, I can have conversations with like when I'm at the grocery store. But no, most of everything is in English here. The company language is English. But Finland is an interesting place. Like, I don't know if you know the history totally of the country, but when Germany had proper cities, there was culture being created. England had London. Romans were even in these areas for a long time. Finland was pagans, hanging out in the woods, rudimentary farming and hunting. Really like a village lifestyle. Like there wasn't a city culture in Finland. Maybe it's been 100 years, really. Helsinki was kind of a Russian town, and Tampere was kind of a Swedish town. Turku was a Swedish town. And the rest, it's a very land-based culture. Like you can go to Helsinki, you can go to one of the most hipster, coffee shops. You get your like latte and like really nice place. Maybe they have kombucha on
flat whites and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And big high heels, and this woman with really nice tattoos comes over and serves you, and you can ask her like perfect English, like how many mushrooms can you forage in the woods? And she'll go, yeah, and she'll list off and you'll be counting. It's probably 10 mushrooms that she could identify and forage from the woods. And that's very common actually in Finland. There's a really people here. Almost everybody in Finland has access to a summer cottage, in their family. That during about this time of the year, the largest festival and time is this midsummer, which is coming up in a few days. And people just go and they live in their summer houses for the summer. Maybe they, telecommute to work or they drive into work, but the cities get empty. People are out here growing food in their summer houses or hunting mushrooms or hunting animals. And there's a really rural feel in Finland. Like, I've never enjoyed living in cities too much myself. So it's been I found like I'm home, I really enjoy it. And there's so much expansion of forest here. 30% of all the organic forests in the entire world is in Finland, it's the lake that's here in the town I live at, where our company's factory is, you can drink the water. And I go there. I take customers or I take clients there and we go drink the water. It's a really important thing for me to show that to people, that these places still exist. And it's, there's minimal agriculture and people are really careful about protecting the water supply. And it's just it's a very different place in the US.
So you think that people in general take care better of the nature, and that's why it's in such good shape? Absolutely.
I think it's because they have a connection to it. They know what mushrooms they can be picking. They know that a big part of their life is to go collect this Finnish, it's called a mustika in Suomi, or Finnish wild blueberry, bilberry sometimes they call it too, but it's, high flavonoid blueberry that you get.
I always have that on the plane when I fly to Finland, always bilberry juice.
Super nice stuff. It's really, really good. And this summer we have two big deep freezers in our house, and that's pretty common in Finland. And we're going to take our kids, we're going to go to the forest, and we're going to just spend days and days just collecting berries. And I have on my board of directors, very powerful people in business here, CEOs of big companies or director level people in big companies. And they go to their summer house and they chop their own firewood to light their own sauna. It's just, that is the Finnish mentality. That is what you are connected with the nature in that way, that by design. And, I don't see that changing in the generation like my age. I still see my friends in Helsinki would ever have nice business jobs, but they're still like going to their summer houses and chopping firewood and, hunting animals and whatever else. So it's just it's a
perfect environment to grow mushrooms.
Yeah, mushrooms. Yeah, I mean, the cleanest air ever recorded was in Finland. The cleanest water ever recorded was in Finland. I mean, it's just when we talk about what important ingredients go into, medicinal mushrooms, I think it's just it's a perfect place for it,
So let's say then you have the product ready. Well, it's grown, in this perfect environment and this really nice air with this water and what then? Like, how do you then make sure? Now we're talking about extraction, I guess, but how do you make sure that all those compounds that are now on the tree get into this little tincture?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, and I think there's kind of a lot of elements to it in a way, like we were talking before, that this chitin cell wall that's surrounding all the good bits. You have to break that apart. So when you're looking for medicinal mushroom products to buy, what you want to see is that it's kind of a dual extract at the minimum. So what it's doing is that it should be taking water and extracting water soluble compounds, and then an alcohol, or ethanol alcohol usually is used to dissolve that chitin cell wall to release those compounds that are hidden behind that wall. Because if you would just take it without that process, it would just go right through you. You process maybe a little bit, like, if you take chaga and you put it in tea, you have a little bit of a bitter taste. And those bitter tastes is kind of coming from these triterpenoids, triterpenes, and compounds. And so you are getting a little tiny bit of an extraction there with that. But it's 10, 15% of what you get if you do an alcohol extraction. And what our company actually just invested in, which is really exciting, is an ultrasonic assisted extraction machine. So I would actually be the first in the industry that we know using that as our main extraction methodology. So when you look at how to break that chitin cell wall, which is like the main reason for the extraction process, alcohol dissolves it. So it's a very long time that takes, and it doesn't do a complete job. Like, there's always going to be stuff that it misses. But ultrasonic assisted extraction is using like these ultrasonic waves and kind of hitting the material with that and actually causing these cavitations that would kind of break those cell walls. And it's a much more efficient way of making that material more bioavailable. So we're getting, in terms of chaga specifically, one compound of interest for us, we were seeing 14 times more of that in the material with ultrasonic assisted extraction. It's like,
so just to have a picture in mind, but that machine sort of sends frequencies while extracting it with alcohol. So the mushroom is lying in alcohol pretty much, and then you support the extraction with sort of like almost a beat, like a
we have basically it's a big tank, like a super big tank. And we put all the material inside, and it has water inside where it's basically heating that material up at a vacuum to keep the temperature low, but to extract as much as possible. And then it has alcohol that's on a closed loop system. So it's going in, dissolving, and then being evaporated and collected again. And then has that ultrasonic assisted wand that goes inside and is basically shooting these kind of basically waves, energy waves at the material. And where those energy waves cross can cause this kind of cavitation process that opens that cell wall again. So it's basically just, a really
it's full ultimate biohacking.
Yeah. But that's it. I mean, we have to just the machinery and the technology has been used at laboratory, like bench level, for a long time. And for years, we've been seeing these studies coming out showing just how incredible it is. And we've just been going, oh my God, when are we going to have, production ready, proper scalable equipment that we could buy? And just recently became available.
So at the time being, the chaga that you use for the tinctures right now, this is still wild forage. So it's not the ones that you started 4 years ago, right?
Exactly. It's wild forage right now. Yep.
Very, very fascinating. Now I want to jump really quickly to, again, the compounds, but what they do, because I saw that on the different products, you indicated what they're for by, for example, Chaga, it says flow and endurance balance. Cordyceps, energy, vitality, performance. Cordyceps actually, as far as I know, was used by the Olympic teams from China back in the day as sort of a legal.
Yeah, the team in Finland is using it right now also, our products.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Very cool. And then, but we can talk about each of these products maybe differently.
Sure.
But yeah, in Shiitake, it says immunity guard. But now, can you talk a little bit about the specificity of these products?
Yeah. And unfortunately, as you probably know, EFSA in the EU is quite controlling on what we can and can't say. But I can explain to you what scientific studies have shown, basically. So if we go into shiitake, I think that's, to me, one of the most interesting mushrooms right now, given the kind of world situation, virus stuff that we have going on. Because that's why I also sent you lots of shiitake. I know you said you had a team, so I was like, make sure this whole team is taken care of.
No, you did. You really sent a lot. Like I'm actually waiting before I post some of those photos when the podcast comes out, to have exposure and to show people what you've actually sent to me, which is an insane amount for the whole team.
Yeah, we got to keep each other safe. That's how this works.
I really appreciate that.
But the shiitake, right? I mean, in our company, we also give out, obviously for all the employees, they get a pretty good amount of free tinctures each month. And during this time, we upped it 3 bottles extra of shiitake per month, because I think the shiitake has a really interesting compound called L-ergothiorine. And this compound has been shown it's in vitro, not in vivo, but that means human cells on a petri dish. But what it's shown is that, and also in mice, that basically this compound can stop, it can protect the cell wall from actually getting hijacked. So that's a really important thing right now, I think, because how these viruses and stuff replicate is they get into the cell wall, they take over the mitochondria, and they make copies of themselves and do it over and over and over and over again. So if we can be limiting and putting up more of a fight, it's a time game in a way for our bodies. So if we can be really strengthening our cell walls to ward off or slow down those attacks, we're biohacking our immune system, in response to basically what's going on. And I think that's a really, obviously there's many other things with shiitake too, but that is to me a compound of interest that is like super critical and super crucial right now.
Can you repeat the compound again? I want to write
it's L-ergothiorine.
L-ergothiorine.
I can send you some papers on that stuff too if you'd like.
Yeah. No, but I always like to then get it right when I write the show notes. But okay, so as far as I understand, so what you're saying is, what you just said is that shiitake, that L-ergothiorine helps with limiting the replication ability of the virus.
Yeah, basically just stopping it from coming into the cell to begin with. It's limiting that.
Okay.
Ease of access. It's like, you got a house that you're trying to protect, and instead of putting like a tiny little lock on it, you put like proper piece of wood in front of the door, and you really protect yourself.
So, by the way, so it's totally safe, right, to take those mushrooms together, for example, now chaga and shiitake. So they don't offset each other in some way.
I have not seen any indication of that, no.
And that's actually, well, this is an adaptogenic thing, I guess, but I guess it also, well, you can tell me, is there an overdose that you can take of those mushrooms, or is this?
Yeah, there is actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's also a really, really important question you asked, and it's a really important thing to talk about too. We have, we were kind of coming up with our dosing and looking also into these compounds. We did a pretty good deep dive into, answer the question for every one of these mushrooms: has there been any deaths or any big effects from actually taking too much? And what we have, and each mushroom is a little bit different. And the only death that we have found is actually with chaga. And it's actually a case from Japan where there's essentially a lot of, one thing we do for our gut is we have these stomach, large intestine, small intestine. Each of them kind of builds an ecosystem for our gut bacteria. And that that is one element of that is based on the pH level that it holds. So sometimes they're a little bit more acidic or a bit more alkaline, depending on which part of the digestive tract you're in to, make a better habitat and home for those gut bacteria. But one of the things that your body uses to do that is pulling in and out trace minerals, which have a certain pH value. So it's good to have, it's good to drink the bone broth and eat seaweed, things like that have these trace minerals. But one source of that is also chaga. It's a pretty good source, actually. It's quite a lot of trace minerals. So if the body has too much trace minerals, be it from chaga, be it from bone broth, be it from seaweed, whatever, your body kind of calcifies those trace minerals to kind of protect your body from them in a way. And then they can get processed by the liver and sent out, or kidneys. Actually, I think it's kidneys. And then if you have too many and it's overwhelming your kidneys, you can have kidney failure. And that actually happened in Japan to a woman who was treating herself actually for cancer with a chaga regimen. And she just pushed her body's limits like some of us do, and just too much. And she was in the hospital for the whole time. So they were actually able to look and see everything that she was kind of taking and what effect it had. So it's a mechanism that makes a lot of sense to me. And it's one, you'd have to drink like 4 of those bottles a day to reach the level that she was, it's a really intense, it's like a liter of that a day. I don't remember, but it's a lot.
So you already said that 2 milliliters of chaga. How about shiitake? The same amount?
Never seen too much there on anything. The only other one is with the Cordyceps militaris, which is what we grow. It looks like that the maximum safety amount that's been put through toxicology tests is like 200 grams a day. So that would be also like a lot of the biohackers that I know that are really pushing those performance limits are taking 12 grams a day. Our recommended is like 2 of those milliliters, which is like 2 grams.
Of Cordyceps.
Yeah. Cordyceps. But so the other ones, I've never seen anything.
With Cordyceps now, because it's, I use it before or after workouts. So what would you recommend for that? Is it good to take it right after a workout, for example, and how much? Because I know there are probably listeners right now, they always want to know exactly like, when do I take it? How much do I take it? And so on. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. I think that's a good place for Cordyceps. I mean, I have this is the only one that I keep on my desk. If you can see. But it's like just always right here next to me. And I'm taking it throughout the day, especially if I'm having like a more intellectual, rougher day, because basically how Cordyceps works is that there obviously are beta glucans. There's also these kind of compounds too, but the main reason that we as biohackers are taking this material is for its cordycepine and generally adenosine. Adenosine is kind of the group, and cordycepine is one of those compounds. Those compounds, because structurally they very much mimic ATP, which is what our body uses as a source of energy. So we can be taking this material as an augmentation to our own ATP production in our body. So when you start to think about time to exhaustion, VO2 max, a lot of those, when you hit that wall or that limit, a lot of it can be brought on too by just lack of energy. You get weak, and so Cordyceps can really be helping that. And I feel it just even, mentally, if I'm needing to do if I have a lot of meetings that day or, I need to perform, I'm also taking this Cordyceps too.
Now I have to jump to lion's mane as well, because I've been using that one actually for mental performance as well.
Yeah.
What do you think about lion's mane, and how does that work?
I think that this is probably really the most popular mushroom actually, that is just now starting to get figured out. I don't know. It really blows my mind. I mean, the potential of lion's mane is incredible because it has NGFs, herediceums and eridiceums, these compounds, and it's an NGF, so it's a nerve growth factor. So we know in mice trials, for instance, and there's human trials that I know are going on right now, where they have seen we have a neurodegeneration. We have also gut cells. I mean, we have this degeneration of these places where there's lots of nerve activity, guts in our brains. And that happens when both you and I hit, you 5 years ago, me 3 years ago, hit 30, it just starts going down from there. And what lion's mane, these nerve growth factors can do is help to stop and stop that degeneration. And also what's really exciting is also see it start to regenerate also. And that's incredible for your gut and it's incredible for your brain. But I think it's like a lot of people somehow associate lion's mane with some instant energy or instant effect. And I think Cordyceps really does kind of have that actually. But I would say with lion's mane, most of the studies, most of the trials, most of my personal experiences kind of over a longer regimen of
that's what I've found in studies actually.
Okay. Did you find that from your personal experience as well?
Yeah, I've written a page for the book, which is great that we're talking about it right now, because lion's mane is pretty much the only one that I've already finished in terms of research. And I found a study, I think, which said, I forgot the exact number, but that the real benefits came after, I think, even months of using it.
Yep.
That the nerve growth factor that you just mentioned, that really hits after like months when you started developing your nerve cells and everything. And all of a sudden you have a baseline test at the beginning and then an after test maybe 5 months later, and then all of a sudden you notice that things have happened.
Yep.
That seems to be the case. So you have to, like, my recommendation also would be to take it over longer periods of time based on that.
Yeah, I think it has to be, because it's like, yeah, it's not you take it and then all of a sudden things just work better. It's structurally changing. I mean, how this degeneration process is happening. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think that you mentioned before that, lion's mane is not available right now from your company right now. Sold out.
It is totally sold out. Yeah. And has been, like, actually we brought entirely, it was like 80% of our stock last year we brought to the Biohacking Summit in Helsinki, and we sold out basically everything at the summit. And then we had just a little bit of stock left on, and then the next month it was just gone. And
yeah, no, we were really looking forward to trying to provide some for the German market here, which is our goal, sort of to source, the best products around the world, especially from Europe. And then and make sure that some of them that we've just talked about, obviously they're still available. So I get from you that I have to order quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
well hidden message.
Yeah. And I mean, we're scaling production massively. I mean, we have our own company farm is the European Union's largest outdoor medicinal mushroom farm. And then we've added actually 4 more farms in this area that we've sort of helped teach them how to grow. And then we, take whatever they grow and we process it here. So we are just massively scaling that, because I think this lion's mane is going to offer a lot of help to a lot of people. I mean, for me, we have a little bit of company lion's mane supply left. That's basically what it is. And we have I take that in Chaga pretty much every day. I mean, I just couldn't imagine those 2 things when I think about the future. I just really don't want to have those things happen to my body. My brain starts to go, or when my cells are rebuilding, that they're rebuilding maybe with a broken DNA because of the free radicals that are flying around. So that the antioxidants from Chaga, I think, are super important for that.
So, Eric, can we actually go through all of the major mushrooms, the ones that you're selling actually right now, and just without really saying what they do, but maybe attach a word to them? For example, we can say Chaga, longevity and immunity.
Yeah.
Shiitake, immunity, just to give the listeners, again, an idea of what you offer, and then maybe just what it could be for, without promising anything.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say, Chaga, Shiitake, you got right. Chaga, longevity and immunity.
So we have Chaga, we have Shiitake, we have Cordyceps. I would say all of them are pretty clear. So Chaga's immunity, longevity, Shiitake, immunity, Cordyceps, performance, ATP, I noticed, noted from you. And then we have lion's mane, which is memory and mental power.
Growth factor, I'd say. And even gut. Gut is one thing we forget about too. It's helping the brain, but it's also helping the gut. And there's such a link there. That's really important.
Yep. the gut-brain axis.
Gut-brain
okay,
axis.
so we have those 4. What else do you have in?
Then I would say we're not selling turkey tail anymore. This was actually pulled from the European Union marketplace
Why is that?
They've now decided it is a novel food, so it hasn't been used in it. Yeah, it's unfortunate, really, for the European Union people, because I mean, in Japan, if you have breast cancer, they literally give you turkey tail extract. That's the medicine. It's not a pill. It's like exactly that. It's a really important medicine for
So I guess then prescription wise, though, it's probably available in Europe as well. But as a novel food, I think you need like 6 years in order to study it right before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's groups working on it. If not, we will be trying to get that figured out.
Okay, so no turkey tail for the time being.
No turkey tail, and then maitake has probably the highest amounts of beta glucans. So if you really, and there are also some really nice studies. So beta glucans meaning really nice adaptogenic for your immune system properties. And then if you think about maitake, also has some really interesting studies on also balancing women's hormones. So cycles, getting the cycle regular, this kind of thing. We're seeing a lot of interest for the maitake for that reason.
Very good. And then I think I'm forgetting one that you have on the website. Let me have a quick check.
I think you said everything. I mean, there's a few more that we also play around with, but
yeah, but I can cut that part out real quick, but I really want to make sure. I thought I saw one.
Reishi.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Reishi.
Yeah. Maybe we need to take some more lines, maybe. But yeah, I think Reishi is like, this is something that I would take for a use case. Like it's relaxing, you know, it's helping calm our bodies, deal with stress. And I'm taking that. It's been many, many, many years since I've dealt with a stressful day with a glass of whiskey or something. And now it's Reishi. I come home, and if work was too much or something and stress was too high, I can also take some Reishi. And like my partner is having, some of the best sleep she's ever had in her life by taking Reishi before she goes to bed. And we're also seeing, which is interestingly enough, I mean, now with this, biohacking movement getting where it's at and the outer rings becoming as popular as they are, we're able to actually track those pieces of data. You're able to stick an outer ring on your finger and, actually then go, okay, I know my baseline, health for sleeping. You can take our Reishi or any Reishi in a way, take some Reishi and you can see what that effect has, you can see what different brands of Reishi might have on your health. Really, the tools for us to make these decisions now is really incredible.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Reishi is one of I don't have problems sleeping. I never have. I don't, it's not a big mushroom for me. But, also stress, I have other ways of kind of managing it, but this is like one way to help. And if you're having problems sleeping, absolutely incredible way.
Yeah. I think in Germany, we even call it the queen of mushrooms sometimes.
Yeah. So it also has a lot of adaptogens for your immune system too. A lot of beta glucans and also interesting beta glucans.
So is it safe to say that all of those actually do modulate the immune system to some degree?
Absolutely. 100%. Even Cordyceps has beta glucans in it. And when you get to the point where you start to study you start to break apart those beta glucans into like PSK beta glucan, for instance, in turkey tail that's helping with the breast cancer. Then you start to understand the difference between those mushrooms and what beta glucans they have. But generally, their beta glucans are really healthy and helpful for your immune system.
And for all of them, is a dosage of 2 milliliters per day about safe?
That's what you want to go for. Yeah. It's hard to tell the biohacking community that because I know that people push things all the time or they want to try stuff out themselves. But I think 2 milliliters a day is like a good test. Right. Try that and see how that goes for you. Yeah.
So Eric, before we go into where people can find out more about the company, I have 2 more subjects that I kind of, now that I have you here in front of me, want to ask about. The one is I've read this really interesting story about, I think it was a Norwegian king, was Harald, who used to give his soldiers, and unfortunately, I'm always forgetting the name in English. In German, it's Fliegenpilz, and it's a mushroom, the red mushroom with the white dots on it. What is that?
Muscaria. Fly agaric or Amanita muscaria is the Latin.
That's muscaria. That's it. Amanita muscaria. And the story behind that was apparently that I think it was Odin's horse. It was Wotan, god of war, was riding over the fields with his horse, and wherever his horse lost saliva and the saliva dropped on the ground, that's where Amanita muscaria would come up. And then the extract was used to make the warriors immune to pain, apparently. And now, is there any usage in that sense from Amanita muscaria? Because here it's considered to be highly poisonous, even deadly. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, it's highly poisonous and pretty deadly. That's exactly what it is. And I mean, in Finnish mythology, there's also a lot of these stories. Actually, it's quite a common mushroom. I have it growing on my land, just like a little bit from here. And
do you use it for anything?
I don't so much. No, I mean, it has psychoactive properties as well. So it's for that reason. In the Finnish mythology, they say that this is where the concept of Christmas came from, actually, because the colors red and white. There's a story about the old, I want to say like shaman, who kind of would grow this beard, and for him, this mushroom was like the teacher. It was somehow this guidance space. Like you'd have shamans from the Native American tradition dressing up as bears, or they would paint bears on their teepees because you could watch a bear and understand what they eat when they have certain medical symptoms. And because their digestive tracts and bodies are similar to ours, you go, okay, the bear, that's a teacher. That's helping us understand our plant medicine. But the shaman in Finland, of course, for whatever reason, decided to take on this aspect of the fly agaric and this Amanita muscaria mushroom. So red and white, long beard. And, in the deep of winter, here in Finland, it's intense. There's no light. There's no sun. And it's really dark and it's really cold. And, there's a lot of depression. People deal with it in Finland now. You stop kind of maybe seeing people. It's a tougher time. It's an inward time, And so one really nice cultural piece for this time in these olden times was to take this fly agaric mushroom, the shaman would bring it to you, and you could restart your life. You could, hit a restart button, really start to rethink about stuff. Make sure your next year is going to be good. Get some, sense of purpose or connection with the higher spirit, and that is an amazing gift, And then how they would basically make it prepared in Finland was they would have reindeer. They would watch reindeers until they eat it, and then collect that reindeer pee, because I guess the compounds, the toxic ones, would be dealt with by the reindeer, and then the pee would still contain the psychoactive compounds.
So talking about psychoactive compounds, this is actually what's coming now. It's the last subject, but it's an interesting one. And I want to talk about it maybe in the context of in the mental health field, because there are some studies already being done now worldwide. And I'm talking about psilocybin. Yep. So magic mushrooms. And I want to know from you what the current state of affairs is in context with this mushroom and applications maybe in the mental health field. And also if you see any future, possibility of it becoming illegal in terms of maybe microdosing it for health benefits.
Yeah. I think when we think about medical trials or experimenting with the psilocybin mushrooms, I think you think back to like Timothy Leary and this stuff back in the 60s, 70s in the US. But if you actually think about the time that was going on when it got shut down, I mean, right now, with Harvard in the US, there's some research institutions in the UK, and Finland also, there's research being done too. The time that we've been doing it now, it's like double or triple that time back in the 60s and 70s. It just there hasn't been that figure like Timothy Leary to make it this big, crazy, insane thing. So I think I think.
By the way, Timothy Leary, he's famous for also making LSD more popular, but he was imprisoned, and then he was there's a theory that he was set up and then spent his time in prison, whereas his partner actually became Ram Dass, Richard Alpert, and became actually this very spiritual, wise figure, and kind of turned himself into a very admirable person. Let's say, and Timothy Leary maybe went a little bit too far. Say that.
And I'd say the people who are really pushing this now, it's a bit more boring. They're researchers and they're doing their job and they're having set up proper trials, and it's really clinical. And I mean, that's now, and that's what's happening now. And it's really interesting to see because they've been doing these experiments on people who have, PTSD or long-term alcoholics. And I mean, what we know about psilocybin and these compounds in these mushrooms, what it does chemically in your brain is really interesting. We have this part of our neurological activity. It's called the default mode network. And it's basically the default mode of our body. If we're not making a decision or thinking about something or trying to play basketball or whatever we're doing, it's the baseline. It's the automatic responses that you give to friends or people you see on the street when you're walking. I say howdy a lot. It's from my vernacular in the US. It's like the countryside vernacular of saying hi. I don't maybe mean that to that person, but that's like just my default quick response. It's my ego, my
sort of like your autopilot.
My autopilot, exactly. So when you take these compounds, essentially they destroy that. It's gone. They put the whole default mode network on pause. Which, if you ever taken these mushrooms before, you could probably understand it. That now it all makes sense. Something just clicked in your head. You go, oh, that's what happened. So you don't have any sense of yourself anymore. All that kind of goes away. So if you're having PTSD, if you're having alcoholic, if you are not responsive to pharmaceutical depression medicine, this really pretty bad shape people in a way, you put their default mode network on pause. You allow them to then, that's an amazing gift, just a reset. Let them, how can you reflect on who you are or your life situation as a person if you don't ever look back on that, right? If you don't step back from who you are and think about that, how do you ever, in a way, analyze that or reflect on that or critique that, change something? So I think what you're seeing with these, you're seeing people who have not been responsive to depression medication. They call them, I think that's the clinical name, not responsive to, depression medicine. I think that's like the brand that they give these people. And they just say, yeah, sorry, you are depressed for the rest of your life. That's the situation. You're seeing, I think it's 7 out of 10 show a total response back to getting rid of their depression.
By using psilocybin.
By using psilocybin in these clinical trials. Same with alcoholics. You're seeing people who have been alcoholics for this super, super, super long time, up to 70%. Also, stopping drinking. Maybe they go back to it. Maybe they can't solve that in their life. Maybe their life design. So you're not seeing that's totally solved. They take one pill, it's all done, magic. They're the totally different human being. Maybe their life situation, the people they're around, they get back into it. But they get that breath, and that's like such a gift. So. Obviously, there needs to be more counseling and things kind of at the end, but if a pharmaceutical company came up with a pill like that, I mean, you would see it in every country in 6 months. It would just be there. We have that right now. We have that totally natural from just a mushroom that grows in the wild. That's, I think, one of the strongest medicinal mushrooms. But
so do you know that actually in these treatments, do they use full doses where they totally put the people into a psychedelic state, or is it microdosing?
No, it's a full proper dose. Yeah, I'd say microdosing has a lot of interesting effects from that too. I mean, you're doing the same thing at a very smaller rate. I mean, you are suppressing the default mode network in a way. So people are saying they're more creative. They're tapping into something a bit, because you're not just so busy in your head, and you're not so automatically doing the same thing that you've done. The tree is the tree. I've been there. I park in this parking spot. I go to it. My routine. It just all kind of gets put on pause or gets shifted a little bit. And in that space of that kind of shifting or opening up, if it's a microdose, it's very small. If it's proper like hero's dose, then it's really, really big. That, you know, you can then start to go tap into what those, who am I? What do I have? Who I am I? What do I want to be doing? How can I, let's think about answering this question for 20 minutes. What is the, you know, not my default responses, you know? And that's a really amazing gift also, these microdosing.
So I think as for now in the Netherlands, it's legal, right?
Yeah.
So are you thinking as a company maybe to come up with a product maybe there first and then see what happens in the rest of Europe?
I can't say a whole lot about it, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, the Netherlands has recently changed a law that allows for unprocessed, fresh truffles kind of thing. So where that goes and what the EU will do about that is also really interesting.
Yeah.
Because here in the EU, we have this kind of single market principle, which was one of the founding principles of the European Union market, that what you buy in Germany, you can also buy in Austria and Italy and wherever. And is that going to be the case? Is the rule that they made in Netherlands going to be upheld in Germany, in Finland, in Sweden? I don't know. It's an interesting place.
Yeah, that's an interesting field. We've had to deal with that as well with some of our products that we've imported also from the US at some point, but also from other countries where it was always a gray area, even with at some point, what was it? Glutathione, I think it was. We had a gel that we sold for a while and then we stopped doing that. But anyways, back to the stuff that is already available and right now from your company, because that's super interesting. And also thanks for sharing your thoughts on those topics, because I think they're super interesting and they're going to be only more popular in the near future.
It's just going that way. I mean, you can see that there's a pharmaceutical company in the UK that just raised 80 million euros to start to develop psilocybin mushrooms, clinical trials and some product out of it. I mean, that's where it's going to go that way. It's just a matter of time, you know.
Yeah, I believe that too. Wow, Eric.
I mean, such an incredible medicine for the people. That's like what I want to say. It just is like, there's a lot of stigma to it, but the potential that it can have to help our society and our civilization.
I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there. And I think it's become a little bit of a lifestyle thing as well. As, at least, you know, I've lived in Berlin for the last 7 years before I moved back to Munich here. And it's almost like people just want to feel different, want to feel funny and use it for that way without really just not even touching, you know, the potential power that it has in terms of self-transformation and healing and, like you said, you know, overcoming traumas.
Yeah.
And that's why I think maybe it's our job as well. And that's, I'm gladly here to do that, to inform people, to break open, you know, the discussion and inform people more.
Yeah. I mean, since the start of like humans experimenting with these things, I mean, there's been a shaman involved. That was the role of the shaman in our civilization. Maybe now it's an older friend or someone who can help you understand what you're feeling,
or a biohacker.
Yeah. I mean, now maybe the title's changing or our idea of what this person is. But I mean, some of these substances, you know, are really powerful, and the experience that it gives us is a really emotionally powerful one, and can be transformational if you have the right person there helping you understand what you're going through. You know, that's traditionally what the shaman did for society. That's why we didn't make them, you know, go hunt buffalo for us or plant potatoes for us or do something else. You know, we said, no, this is an aspect of our civilization that is so crucial to the mental health and development of our people that, dude, all you got to do is build a cabin and do your thing and help people understand these experiences and, you know, mark that coming to manhood, coming to womanhood, coming to motherhood, coming to fatherhood, these different places in our life. I think that's it's a real big role that we're missing, especially when you see, like you said, kids are taking it in festivals to feel funny. This is such in a way, disrespect of these medicines. You know?
That's it. And you just mentioned shamans. It's actually in the Nordic and the Germanic, past. There were druids, there were owads, I think, in Germanic countries, which are sort of like shamans, druids. You might know from, you know, Asterix, the comics. Methusalix, who prepares the potion. And so they were always present in pretty much all societies. They had different names.
Yep.
So maybe it's time to use the biohacker as the modern shaman.
But someone has to explain this stuff, and I think it's, in a way, we can get really right now into the chemical side or the compound side or the effects that it's going to have. But with these medicines, it's very different. It's like, it's a mental thing. It's a maybe spiritual thing. It's also, there's a whole breadth of the whole thing for sure.
By the way, what's your take on, I'm just thinking of that, the theory that mushrooms came from outer space to planet Earth? Is there something reliable?
100% true. 100% true. No, I don't know. I wish it was true. I love this story, It's such a cool way of thinking about it. But I think unfortunately, from evolutionary, cellular dating, I think it doesn't make any. We can see really the progression of where we came from to get to mushrooms, but I would totally love that to be true. It'd be amazing.
All right, Eric, before we mention the company again and the website, I wanted to ask you a couple more personal questions to come slowly to an end, because it's been so much information already, but I could definitely keep recording with you for hours. What does your average day look like right now in terms of your morning routine, your evening routine, your work period?
Yeah. Well, basically right now, my alarm is a lot of times my children coming into bed. This is right around I'd say 6:30, something like that.
4 and 5 are ages where you definitely have to get up early still.
Yep. Yeah, it's nice though. I'm okay getting up that early. I think I would anyway if they weren't there. But it's a really nice time. We just have got them to their own bed. They were sleeping in our bed for a long time. Now they're in their own bed. And now when they first wake up, they just want to come see us. And that's I never want that to end somehow. It's really amazing, a special time. So they come running in, they jump on us and kind of wake us up. And we all snuggle together, and it's really nice family time in the morning for a while. And I really go through with both the kids what dreams they had. I ask both of them every morning, how did you sleep? Did you have any dreams? What dreams did you have? And then we also share our dreams. So we can, as a family, really connect over what's muddling around in there, and those questions for my kids have really helped me understand a bit of what maybe they can't. A lot of times kids at this age, they're really frustrated, they're angry, and they go, I don't know why. I don't know, Dad, why I'm yelling. Or they can't articulate those things very well, but when they talk about their dreams and subconscious processes, I think I can understand my kids a bit better. So that's how I start the day. I've recently given up coffee, which has actually been quite nice. So now I'm going downstairs. And
any particular reason, or just because you wanted to?
I had some stomach pain actually after drinking coffee, and I was feeling maybe some acid reflux is just starting or something, and I just kind of wanted to take a break. I also realized that I am totally addicted to caffeine and coffee, and I used to always every year take at least a week off of coffee just to go, I'm not that addicted, damn it, it's I could do a week, and I haven't done that for years, 4 or 5 years. So it was kind of nice timing.
What do you think of nicotine, by the way?
I love nicotine. And that's my problem, I think. One of my problems.
But are you smoking or?
No, I don't smoke. I can go months without a years without a tobacco or nicotine. But there's moments when I really enjoy it. And I think there's specific moments I think that nicotine is really helpful when calming down and really having to make decisions or have a really intense talk, or, I think nicotine is an amazing ally for those moments. So I still practice and take it during those times. But there's also now this nicotine, what is it? Blue
canatine.
Yeah. Blue canatine just came out, and this is incredible stuff. I've been really.
Yeah. I'm actually about to record with Scott and Dr. Achocoso.
Yeah, great.
I met them in London, so I wanted to record them. But we probably won't get in Germany for the next couple of years, I guess. But let's see. Hopefully, because nicotine is under pharmaceutical law, so you need to have a prescription for it here. Yeah. Well, no, you don't. You can get it in the pharmacy, and I actually use it as a writing enhancer. So when I need to write something and I need to really get over the first hum sitting in front of the empty page and I need this little bump, then I take a little bit of nicotine.
That's a great use. Yeah, I totally hear that. That very much resonates with me. I think when you more understand these, that's biohacking, right? I mean, you understand what these compounds do, and then you can use them in the right places. And mindlessly smoking cigarettes all the time, I mean, that's a very different thing.
Yeah, that's a different, and obviously that hurts your lungs. So smoking is really not a good idea for all the listeners out there. No, the different ways. So, okay, so we have the dream sharing is actually great. I've never heard about that. I'm going to definitely use that at some point. It's a very interesting method for parents, especially.
I did that even with my partners. Like, I think it's really nice to just. That's
cool. Yeah.
How's your brain going right there? What's going on? And it's really interesting sometimes when we'll have similar dreams, or it's a nice morning routine for me in a way. It's just every morning, and then I drink lots of water. So I'll drink like 2 big glasses of water, start the day that way. I've been doing that for a very long time. And then it's mainly, now my kids have come downstairs and I'm making them breakfast. And then I'm starting breakfast also for my partner and I. We have chickens. So usually most mornings is like a pretty big, heavy chicken egg breakfast. And then.
So you live on a farm, I guess. Then.
Yeah, we have land. Yeah, not like a proper farm, but we grow a lot of food and got some chickens. And, apple trees.
Very cool.
And then then we all eat together. We kind of go over the day, and then mainly I clean up the kitchen a bit. My partner will take the kids to daycare, and I'll come into the office. And it depends. I mean, either I come into the office, or it depends what time it is. If it's early enough, I'll also go to the mushroom farm. Just kind of walk around, take a look at the mushrooms and see how things are growing. Just kind of a nice way for me to start the day, connect to why we're here, what we're doing. And then come into the office, and then it's pretty intense work. And a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. And so there's a really nice space outside. There's lots of green. So I'm taking a lot of phone calls as much as I can on a walk. And I have there's a big forest next door, and I'm just doing big laps, while I'm doing the phone calls, because it's really helpful to move the body. And then it helps my brain think better, I think, too. Helps me process things.
Mm-hmm.
And then some light lunch. And for me, I probably do a lot better thinking in the morning, I feel. So I'm kind of packing my mornings with a bit more of that. Meetings where decisions need to be made, a bit more intense stuff that's happening in the company. And in the afternoon, I let regulate to different email work, something like this. And then after work, right about now, I will bike home, which is like 1 kilometer away, which is just so perfect. And then play with the kids for like 2 hours, pretty much. So then it's, they've already been home with their mom for some time. And I like to jump on the trampoline with them. I like to do really physical things. I like to make up games where we like really test each other or play or like do stuff. Or I like to build things with them. So we're building like a tree house and, just things that they ask me that they want me to build, and we'll build together. And then also like a lot of like physical work. So I'm working a lot on their bodies, like also their balance, a lot of their muscles, because from a lot of things I've read for this age for kids that a lot of the physical development of their bodies is basically directly linked to their brain development. And I can just tell from my kids how much they need that, how much they just need to be moving and experimenting and trying things and playing with this. So we set up obstacle courses. We have these kind of parkour kind of set up. So we do a lot of barefoot activities outside, running through the forest. And sometimes with the kids, we'll go with the mom, we'll go foraging food. So we'll go find wild, right now there's lots of wild herbs, like spring ephemerals that are poking up that have a lot of really, really nutrient dense. We'll make a pesto, we'll make salad with it for dinner then. And then we start the dinner machine, and then I have a little bit of time each day for myself. And I do a lot of mental things for my work. I'm making a lot of decisions and just thinking and reading a lot that I love in my own time to be doing things with my hands. So I make furniture out of wood. And so I just have kind of a woodworking shop. And then I just make stuff that it's my own. There's no part, I'm not part of a team. I'm not part of a committee. We're not, it's really my creativity, my expression of myself. It's a really nice type for me. And the teamwork and stuff, it's also amazing, really, really nice time too, but I need to balance that somehow. And also working with my hands, I really need more of that in my life. So I will do, where I'm building a log house right now for my family here in Finland. And I built a barn there with traditional building methods, and that's wooden roof. And then I build furniture as well. I'm building a table actually right now. Just depends what I feel inspired about.
It seems really like a little paradise where you live.
And then the kids will be asleep. I'll give them a big hug, and then I read English books to them every other night, and my partner will read Finnish books to them every other night. So they can get kind of both those languages being developed a bit better. And then she'll usually put them to bed, and then when she comes downstairs, then we will have hour and a half to each other, which is super precious as well. We talk about what's going on, what happened with the kids, how work went, just really decompress with each other. And last night we got into quite a lot of deep conversation about childhood. It's our time just to really talk about those kids and how they're developing and how they're doing and how that feels for us and what we can be doing better. And pretty much every night, that's what we do. And sometimes we'll watch a movie, or sometimes we'll have friends over for dinner. But most nights, we just spend that time together talking.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this. Yeah. Very interesting too.
Simple family life.
Well, I'm not sure if that's simple. I mean, it seems like you're very well balanced in a lot of areas of your life. It seems like you're every aspect gets enough attention, and you're using your brain and your body in multiple ways. I try to. So thanks. That's very inspiring. So we're to the last question, Eric, for today, which is, if you had one thought that you could put into every listener's head right now, which one thought would that be?
That's a super good question. Wow. That is a lot of responsibility too.
Don't overthink it though.
I would say I think find out really what you want to be doing with this life. That would be my thought. Really find that out. And no one's going to tell you that. You got to figure that out yourself. But really figure that thing out and really understand what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure, and use those tools that you have. And just we have this gift. We have this gift of life, and we got to just live this absolutely as incredibly as we can,
Thank you. I think these were fantastic last words.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Eric. And now, can you mention again where people can find more about you and your company?
Yeah.
And,
KÄÄPÄ.
Yep.
KÄÄPÄhealth.com, and that's KÄÄPÄ health, HEALTH.com.
And obviously, we'll link to that in the show notes as well. You'll find all the show notes on flowgrade.de/KÄÄPÄ as well, like the company. And I'll mention that again in the outro. So stay tuned, and I'll say bye to Eric right now. So thank you, Eric, once again, in the name of all my listeners.
And thank you very much. Absolute pleasure to have this talk with you.
Goodbye.